They are dirty, they are little, and they are sociopaths who don't care about those who get injured. So here we are at episode 7 of The Rings of Power, The Eye. There was no eye until the Third Age, but we'll leave that be for now because we are on to the last 2 episodes of this series, and we'll find out if anyone survived that pyroclastic flow in the volcano. Of course they survived. All the main characters have to survive. We know they survived, so there's really no tension there at all. So let's get into it. Let's see what it has for us this week. Will the writing be any better? Will time matter? Will distance matter? Will the physics of reality, even though it's a fantasy world, will that matter at all in this show? Will we get more emotion? Will we start liking some characters outside of Durin and Disa? Let's find out. But before we do, please please subscribe. I appreciate all of you who are leaving the comments. It's fun to read, even though a bunch of you disagree with me. That's okay. We can have opinions. It's fine. I can hate it and you can love it. And that's the way it goes. I mean, you may not have read Tolkien and you love it, but we'll leave it at that. So like and subscribe, share it. I'd appreciate it. And if you really like it, you can become a patron at theonering.com/patron, where you get access to our private Discord server. We have message boards there. We've got chat. We'll have our extended podcast coming up. And that's all available at theonering.com/patron. So let's get into The Rings of Power, episode 7, The Eye. Oh, look. They survived. I mean, not to belabor the point, but they would be incinerated, right? They would be completely incinerated into nothing. This is Pompeii in Middle-earth. Just in case you're wondering, no, the elves are not invincible. They have long life, but wounds hurt them. They die from actual physical damage. The entire buildings are burned, but the people survive. Sure. I don't care if Isildur died there or not, because I know he didn't die. He has to survive. It's a meaningless point of tension because we all know he's going to survive.
And I see in elves that which they cannot see in themselves. That is why I stand before you now alone.
I want to know what he sees in elves which they cannot see for themselves, because he's half elven, because he's originally half human and can see elves better. You've got to explain this to us if you make these statements, because your history of explaining what things mean when they say it is pretty much zero. You're striking out every single time. So I'm guessing they're never going to tell us what his insight is.
And when Aule created our people, he crafted us of 2 elements, fire and rock.
I just read of Aule and Yavanna not too long ago in the Silmarillion, and I don't remember them saying it was fire and rock. Let me pull it up. So let's see. It is told me she's Laura Aule made the dwarves because is they still Melkor wish them fire and rock under Middle Earth. Well, it's not here. I guess they don't have the rights to it, so they can't use that, so they have to make it up. It could be in another Histories of Middle-earth that I don't remember, but it's certainly not right here where they talk about where Aule created the dwarves.
By minds much wiser, much farther seeing than our own.
He's got a point. I like Durin's dad, even though he really shouldn't be there because there was no patriarchy and of royalty, and anyway. I won't get into that. So it's true. So the theory that what Gil-galad was saying actually isn't true, he was fibbing in order to get the Mithril, we now know that theory is completely wrong, and that no, they are buying in. They are all in on the idea that Mithril is the magic metal of light and dark that will bring the elves back, that will get rid of this shadow that we see on this leaf here. Again, let me point out that if this is true, Frodo's mithril coat in the Fellowship of the Ring would have been so coveted by the elves that there's no way he would have ever left Rivendell with it. They would have been fighting over it, and as Michael said in our previous episode, they've been like rubbing it on their face and be like, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. No, this is so dumb. But all of those people, they didn't get burned. They just magically were able to endure the heat and ash and fire of the pyroclastic flow. She makes a statement that it's her fault. I'm trying to trace how it's her fault. It's her fault that she didn't see it coming, I guess. Okay.
Where is he?
We know he's not dead. He can't be dead, or else this entire story is really retelling everything Tolkien wrote. Why are they separated when they're all coming from a 5-building town? Wouldn't they have all gathered together and left at the same time? There's no reason for them to be separated like this at all. And yet somehow they're like in completely separate forests going to a high ridge all on their own. And for some reason, Galadriel and Theo, who were in a town where clearly there were a lot of other people at one point, with them, just decided to go off on their own and not help anybody?
I would not use such words.
Why not?
It darkens the heart to call dark deeds good. It gives place for evil to thrive inside us.
That's rich, coming from Galadriel, who is willing to leave one of her men on the snowy slopes of the north. She's rife with evil in herself. She makes horrible decisions that are self-centered and have disregard for everyone else around her. Right. So they're saying that the fire bombs from the volcano hit in this one area. Am I gathering that correctly? Because nothing else seems damaged in the rest of this shot here. Everything else around the Harfeet, the dirty little sociopaths, right? I mean, I guess in the distance those are burned. Are they? I can't tell. But the only actual fire that happened is right where they are. So convenient. Whoa, that's Mirkwood. That's how far away they are from Mount Doom. And this is how far wow, that's hundreds. That's really far.
And my husband.
Husband.
Hey, Celeborn. They're going to bring him back. They have to, right?
We met in a glade of flowers. I was dancing and he saw me there.
Really? Beren and Luthien? That's what you're going to do this? That's what you're going to do with this? Beren and Luthien. Galadriel, all of a sudden, is the one doling out these nuggets of wisdom of how you should be dealing with anger and hatred and bearing the pain of the present. And yet, throughout the entire 6 previous episodes, she has been unable to do that on her own. They have not established that she is actually any good at understanding her own motivations and how she should be dealing with them. But now she's capable of telling Theo exactly how he needs to deal with it when there's been no place for her to do that yet.
We move at first light.
First light. I think that's like the 5th episode where they move or they do something, they meet, they move, they eat breakfast at first light. It's a wonderful time of the day.
Elrond is as much a brother to me as if he'd been fired in my own mother's womb.
I don't believe that at all. Elrond wasn't around for 20 years. They never talked to each other or anything like that. To say that he's a brother to him as if he was fired in his own mother's womb has not been established and continues their problem of making up things despite what they've already told us about these characters. But I will say, the dwarven interaction is far better than any elven interaction, than any Harfoot interaction, than any human interaction. I like the conflict. I like that there's love, and there's duty, and there's anger, and there's a driven environment for them to create some real stories for these characters that aren't just boring.
They say his little daughter, he could not help but.
There's a little too much of the singing going on. Maybe that's being super nitpicky, but yeah, hobbits are happy, jolly people, and they sing. But it can't be in every single scene that Poppy is in. That kind of lessens the effect. I'm not sure what to think about these cultists and who they're supposed to be because they've given us nothing. They're kind of like nightmare creatures. They walk slowly. They never talk. They point like death, like the ghost of Christmas future in Christmas Carol. In a regular new fantasy story, they'd fit just fine. I just find that they're nothing to do with anything that matters yet. And they should show us. I guess maybe we'll find out. Let's see. Yes, indeed. It is like a nightmare. They just poof, disappear. In order to have that kind of power, they have to be Maiar, Ainur, something that's supernatural. There's nothing at all that I can point to and say, hey, good job pulling this from something in the first age, second age, third age, from some histories of Middle Earth. No, there's nothing. And again, they have to be some sort of supernatural being to have this kind of power. In Tolkien's world, they would have to be something like a Gandalf or a Sauron. So maybe this is Sauron.
Do not spend your pity on me, elf. Save it for our enemies.
Save the pity for our enemies? Save the pity for our enemies? What? So, it's the strong, powerful woman leader who decides to come back to Middle-earth. It has nothing to do with Elendil the Faithful. At least that would be a little bit more what Tolkien wrote. I mean, originally it was Ar-Pharazôn coming to Middle-earth, and they had settlements already in Middle-earth.
But there's one thing we can do, I warn, better than any creature in all Middle-earth.
We leave those we love behind when they get injured.
We stay true to each other.
I was wrong. Sorry. They don't stay true to each other because they established that they leave them all behind. The dirty little sociopaths.
No matter how the path winds.
Yo, if the path is as easy and somebody breaks their leg, you leave them on the path behind them. What did you write? Do you understand what you have told us already? And now you are lying to us about who they really are.
With our hearts even bigger than our feet.
Unless you get injured and you get stung by bees or you get stuck in a snowdrift, then we leave you behind.
And we just keep walking.
Unless you get injured and we walk and leave you behind. How much time has elapsed here? Because they were a day's ride away from their ships, right? Or they left, they're magically on their ships again, and that drives me crazy.
Pelargir, they called it.
Wow. Okay, well, there's something from Tolkien, the old Númenórean outpost. They already had time to put his sigil on the wall. Somebody took the time between the volcano and him lying in this tent all by himself. They took the time to create his sigil as an embroidery on the wall there. Let's not forget, if she's going by horse to Linden, this is on overland a travel of many, many weeks. But they'll get there tomorrow. It's their portal will get them there right away. They just have to travel to it. It was in the Wheel of Time. They can do it here, right? That's a little cheesy. I don't know who decided that, but not exactly subtle or dignified. It's pretty cheesy. Okie dokie. There we go. That is episode 7 of the Rings of Power. The Eye. The Eye. Why would it be called The Eye? I guess because it creates Mordor. The Eye of Sauron. The Eye. Maybe because Miriel goes blind. I don't understand that name. Maybe I need to rewatch it because it's late and I haven't thought about it too hard. But The Eye? I don't know. I don't get it. I think I can officially say this was the most interesting episode. And in fact, I think they could have started with this episode. It would have been far more interesting. They could have had a little bit of run up with some things, but my goodness, everything actually started happening here. Mordor's created. The Númenóreans and the Southlanders are fleeing. The Harfoots have been burned, or their stuff has been burned, and the cultists are after Gandalf. A lot of stuff happened, and it actually was relatively interesting at times. Now, it was done in such ham-fisted and unsubtle ways. They still have this incredible problem of ignoring reality, of ignoring the land, of ignoring time and distance, and for Galadriel and Theo to be separated from this little itty bitty town, from all the rest of the people for some reason, because it just suited their purpose of giving them a discussion together over however many miles they needed to walk. It doesn't make any sense. The whole idea that these people survived the ashes and fire of Mount Doom erupting into a pyroclastic flow where heat rises into the hundreds of degrees at least, and they survived that. I mean, all the structures were burned, all the trees were burned, but none of their clothes actually were burned off. In fact, the people that were in the makeshift, hospital, none of them were burned at all. They were a little singed, but none of them were burned. Nobody had any burn marks except for that one guy who probably meant he some stuff fell on him. Reality doesn't matter. The actual way things work in a world that is supposed to be ours doesn't really matter. Isildur, he's not dead. We know that. Not possible. He has to survive. He's going to die at the Gladden Fields. We know that's where he actually dies. We know this is not his fate. So that whole storyline was not important to me at all. There's way too much Harfoots in here. that last speech by Daddy Harfoot, by Hobo Baggins, it's hilarious because it goes against everything they've told us about the culture of this clan. They don't care about each other. They care if you stay on the path, but once you get left behind, you are dead to them. We will write you down in a book. You may be alive, but we'll write down your memory. We'll regale you in the future, but you're dead on the side of the road now. We don't walk together with you anymore. But somehow he creates this speech that talks about how good they are to each other. Their hearts are big. No, their hearts are not big. They are dirty, they are little, and they are sociopaths who don't care about those who get injured. It's funny that they think they've created the writers think that they've created some sort of wonderful pastoral community that travels along the land where they love each other. And yet the one thing that we all remember about them is that they leave you behind, that they don't care about you if you get injured, that if you get stung by bees, stuck in the snow, fall down a well, they're not going to do anything to try and save you because you and your dumb luck, sorry. And the cultists were there. The cultists, what's up with the cultists, with these, who are they supposed to be? Why are they there? They have to create the mysteries. This is what comes from J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot, right? Everything, which is where Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne come from, the showrunners. They come from J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot. His whole idea of how to create a story is to create mysteries and mysteries and mysteries, and you just really don't have to answer them. You just create the mystery because that will drive the story forward. Well, the mystery of the cultists leaves a lot to be desired because they've been in essentially 2 scenes so far, and we know nothing about them. We know they're going after somebody. We know that they have magical powers like a wizard, which is unfortunate because that means they have to be something like Gandalf, something like Saruman, something like a wizard, or something like a Balrog, or something, an Ain or a Maiar, which is not. They've created something completely new. So here's the thing about this episode. Here's what I think. One, they could have started with an episode very similar to this. Right? The phrase in medias res, right? You start in the middle of the story and it's far more engaging. This is what great short story writers like Ray Bradbury do all the time. They don't give you the entire lead up, the prologue, everything up through the story. If they do, it's very short. But we had 4 to 5 episodes of complete prologue, nothing but exposition and boredom. And finally, in episode 6 and 7, mostly here in episode 7, we get actual movement. The dwarves, again, best part, I really like. Okay, best actor is, I guess, Durin III here, Durin's dad. He is great. His ability to act like a dwarf, his anger, the way he acts with just his eyes, because so much of his face is covered up, eyes and mouth. So much of his face is covered up, right, with prosthetics and with the beard, but he does a great job. And that tension between him and his son, I liked a lot. It's not in Tolkien's world, and that's okay in that sense, right? They created something that works there, and in this story, it works. I like that. The Durin Disa moment at the end, I thought was contrived and a little bit over the top with how she wants to rule now, I guess. and how they're going to go after Mithril regardless. Oh, okay. And the final thing I'm going to say, the Mithril storyline, they dove whole hog into it, and it is so stupid. It's stupid. There's no reason for this anywhere in Tolkien's world. It completely ruins Mithril in the future. Everything about Mithril would be so desired by the elves that there would be huge battles between the dwarves and the elves just for Mithril. That's all the battles would end up being, because if it means life to the elves, they would certainly go after it all the time. And now, okay, and instead of digging too deep, it's dropping a leaf wakes the Balrog. Here's the thing. This is their best episode. If this wasn't Tolkien, it would be fine. It would have some things in it that would be acceptable, but it's not anything that Tolkien actually wrote. It's not anything that comes from his books. The names are there, the places are there, but the way the world is structured and the way the characters interact, this is not anything that he wrote. And that's still my major problem from the inception of this story, is that they wanted to write the story Tolkien never wrote. And this is indeed the story Tolkien never wrote. I don't trust them to make anything better. So we've got one more episode to go. We'll see, I guess, who Halbrand is at the end of this. We'll see what the cultists are, I hope. Maybe Gandalf reveals himself, but I wouldn't bet on it, honestly. They need mystery boxes for season 2, so they're not going to open a lot of these because they've got to leave us hanging on for season 2. So anyway, that's my thoughts. What did you think? Put your comments below. One more episode to go. Episode 8 comes out next week, next Thursday night, and we will be doing an in-depth review of this episode, me and Michael and Dan. That will release on Tuesday, I believe. I hope you tune in for that one. That'll be fun. I'm going to be really curious what the guys think about this one. It was the least offensive one so far. What did you think? Put your comments below. If you like what you heard, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, ring the bell, share it. And if you really liked it, you can head over to theonering.com/patron. You can become a patron and join our Discord group and get our extended podcast. That'll be available soon. And it's $4 a month, but the first month is free. So you can chat for an entire month without any skin off your back or any dent into your wallet. So join us there at theonering.com/patron, and we'll see you next time as we go in depth on episode 7, The Eye. Okay.